I've come to deeply love and appreciate this flower ceremony we do each year, and many, many Unitarian Universalist congregations do each year as well. I love the symbolism of it. I love the origins with Norbert and Maja Čapek in their home country, finding a way for their congregation of diverse beliefs and backgrounds to have a uniting ritual. Each member bringing a flower from the countryside or their garden or just beside the road to form an unplanned but beautiful collection of colors and shapes and sizes. Just as, of course, we come together in a congregation each Sunday, all different but united as one. As we do here today, in their congregation too, each person took home a different flower, rejoicing in what someone else had contributed to the collection and knowing that each of them, giver and receiver, play an important part. But I want to give you even a little more background because the story of the Čapeks is really interesting. He had been a Baptist minister before coming to Unitarianism, but together they founded what became the largest Unitarian church in the world in Prague, with thousands in regular attendance. But I have to tell the rest of the story too. They founded the church in the 20s and continued it through the 30s. And then, of course, the shadow of war fell over Europe. Maja fled to the U.S. as the Nazis took over huge swaths of Europe, including areas around Prague. But Norbert remained, convinced he could still do good against the fascists. He and his youngest daughter, Zora, were subsequently arrested by the Gestapo for the high crime of listening to foreign radio broadcasts. Anyway, they were imprisoned in concentration camps. He was imprisoned in what became known as the Priester block, where clergy were. Both of them died in those camps. It's not clear whether they were intentionally killed or just allowed to die from starvation and disease. Maja, safe in the U.S., didn't learn of their deaths until after the war. Maja continued for many years. She served churches in this country, and she worked for the organization Relief for Czechoslovakia, providing relief for the people of her homeland until her death in 1966. She also, as I said earlier during the ceremony, brought that ritual to the U.S., to the First Parish in Cambridge, and slowly and then quite quickly to other churches, Unitarian Universalists across the country, starting in the Northeast, where the Čapeks had many connections and quickly spreading all over. It's a beautiful testament to their legacy and to the power of the ritual they created. And so their story is a complex one, like so many of ours, with great triumphs and joy and tragedy and sadness. After all, we all have these things in our lives. Though I have to say, a few years ago, I would have said that most of our stories involve fewer Nazis. As I look around our country and our world today, I'm not so sure I can say that anymore. Seems like there are plenty of Nazis or Nazi wannabes. So as I said several months ago now, I'm trying to both keep up with the news, because I think that's really important with what's going on in our world, but also not be imprisoned by it. To be aware and be involved, but to not be captive to every moment, to every horror we see, so that I can continue and can have some perspective that will serve me and I hope all of us for the long haul, because I do see a long haul ahead. So having said that, two items of news rose easily to the level of my attention this week. One of them was pretty impossible to avoid, I think, and I wanted to share with you. And of course, there are many other things that I could have chosen instead, but here they are. First, the fascinating and complicated news of a new pope being elected by the Catholic Church. I don't spend a lot of my day-to-day time thinking about the Catholic Church, but somehow a new pope just pierces through that veil, doesn't it? I mean, people, including me, who are not invested deeply in what the Catholic Church does or doesn't do, still tune in to watch this stuff, right? Y'all all did too, right? Or caught it later? Okay, good. I'm not alone. And I think this one is particularly interesting for us. So I wanted to pull just a few of the interesting things from that. I have to say first that nobody does the whole pomp and circumstance thing better than Catholics, do they? I mean, the Swiss Guard in their uniforms, the Vatican City marching band. If I ever knew that Vatican City had its own marching band, I had forgotten. But as somebody who was in high school marching band, that was a connection point for me. And the rites and ceremonies around electing a new pope. And I was watching ABC News, and they had to fill like an hour from when they knew there was a new pope to actually having anything really to show. So they were throwing out all the little facts and figures. Something called the Room of Tears that the Pope sits in before being introduced. That's sort of an evocative name, isn't it? Wow. Okay. And, of course, watching the square fill up with people. Hundreds and thousands and tens of thousands of people. And I visited there. That is a big square, by the way. It is a large space. So even huge crowds don't seem as huge in that space. There were really a lot of people there. And then, of course, we finally find out who the new pope is. I had to try to pull on my Latin I took in junior high and high school, and I could follow a little bit of it. Though they talk so fast, like any foreign language, I couldn't follow all of it. But the new pope, was born in and has lived a good chunk of his life in the United States. Like, that's really exciting. It's interesting. He's a Chicago White Sox fan. I don't know if y'all have seen it, but there's footage of him at the World Series in 2005, which is really strange. I mean, he looks like a normal guy, which I suppose he kind of is, right? I watched every interview I could with his brother, who still lives in the Chicago area, apparently, who kind of briefly became a mini celebrity. He was on so many news shows for a day or two there. And then, of course, all the speculation about what kind of pope he is and will be. His positions seem relatively mainstream for the sort of person who becomes a pope in the Catholic Church. Not all the things I would hope for, but, sort of as good as I could expect, I suppose. But two of the interesting things that rose to the surface immediately, in the sort of reading the tea leaves sense, is that one, he was apparently, in the way that you're not supposed to say these sorts of things, but you say them anyway, the favorite of the last Pope, Francis, to win this election. And two, that he chose the name Leo, which is widely viewed as saying that he plans to continue in the tradition of the last Leo, the 13th, who was known for his work on Catholic social doctrine, particularly when it came to issues of labor, which is about as positive a sign as you could hope for, I would think. Okay, well, we'll find out more in coming years, I'm sure. On to much more troubling news, and this one was a little more under the radar. Stephen Miller, who seems to me just like a really terrible person, the White House official, whatever his titles are these days, they seem to change every few months, said the administration is considering suspending habeas corpus, a fundamental right of people established to make sure that no one is imprisoned without the right to due process, and that you have the chance to argue that you are being wrongfully detained if you are imprisoned. The principle dates back to the 1300s in England, in case you thought this was some newfangled thing. It's enshrined all over our law system. It has been suspended several times during the history of our country. And even then, I don't agree with it that it was suspended, but it should be noted that when it was suspended, it was literally during times of war or in the immediate aftermath of terrorist attacks. And I don't see anything to think that those situations exist now. And even if they did, I wouldn't agree with suspending habeas corpus. It's one of the reasons we broke off from England, after all. Like, this is such a troubling thing. I'll be following that one closely. You would think that I would have some great tie-in between these two things, like the Pope has spoken against habeas corpus. No. I don't have a tie-in between them, other than that both of them play a big role, could play a big role in our country, and certainly in our world, and in the near future. It is a complex and beautiful, joyous and tragic world we live in. One full, to go back to our metaphor of the bouquet, of so many colors and textures and shapes and differences. Much like the array of flowers we have brought here today and will carry out into the world with us when we leave. Our world does not always make sense, no matter how hard I want it to, no matter how much we all want it to. And sometimes our task is not just to try to make it make sense, but to appreciate what is in front of us, to acknowledge the role we have and can play in the future, and what part all around us, all those around us, play in this community and in our world. I wish the Pope the very best. I wish Stephen Miller pretty much the worst. And to all of you, I remind you that we are, all of us, lovely flowers that together make up the arrangement that is our world. May it be so.